going? Woo! Kind of felt like Christmas Day today. First weekend back open again, so we're heading upstairs. It was a beautiful day. I hope we get people checking in and people still here with us for happy half hour. We're gonna keep on rolling and keep the fun going. Oh, I'm seeing all kind of likes. Hey, Paul, good to see you. Checking in from Florida. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for your visit today and buying the wine. So I'm at the top of the stairs. Oh, hi, Caitlin. You have been like #1 faithful girl. And Jason, what's up, buddy? What's up? I see I always look the wrong direction. Okay. Hi, Karen. Thank you for coming out today. So this is what I need to be seeing right now, okay? Right? Need to see a little bit of applause. I'm waiting for it. Oh, the Murrays are all here. Congratulations on your graduation, Kellen. Let's try this one more time. Excellent, excellent. And we are here for another episode of Happy Half Hour, starring Al and Cheryl Kellert. And our executive producer is going to sit down, and Big Al, we are rolling.
We're rolling now?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Well, we're number 7 and counting, and thank you all so much for joining us. We're really looking forward to this happy half hour at Grey Ghost here at Grey Ghost Studio A. Again, this is our first day open, and it was packed. We're just loving the fact that we're getting people out, letting them have an opportunity to experience Grey Ghost, and yes, spend money. But that's neither here nor there. Again, it's great to be with you. We are open, but there are some limitations. So if you have any questions, give us a call. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Now, we always have to start off with a little humor. And I thought, what a better way than to focus on our educational system. This little boy, 6 years old, was practicing his mathematics. And his mother was listening to him while he said, 2 plus 2, the son of a bitch, is 4. And she looked shocked. He then said, 2 plus 4, the son of a bitch, is 6. That was all she had to hear. She then went to the little boy and said, where did you learn this? And he said, from my teacher. That's how she told us to learn our math. So she stormed out of the room, went directly to the teacher and said, what are you teaching our children? My son was just practicing his numbers, and he went 2 plus 2, the son of a bitch, is 4. And she said, oh my goodness, it's still supposed to be 2 plus 2, the son of which is 4.
Bada bing!
So, once again, we're going to ask Cheryl to give you a little bit of an update, but before we do, I think it's very important that we pour tonight's wine, which is the Petit Verdot, our 2017 vintage. I'll talk a little bit more about this after Cheryl updates me on the fun she's had this week. Once again, you will note we are serving 2 bottles or 2 glasses, 1 for each hand. Even though we are open, we're still practicing safety. As long as you have a glass in each hand, the likelihood of you touching your face is very rare. Ah, there's a 5th glass. Funniest thing. Now, I'm just going to put this bottle right here. I'm going to leave the cork right here so we keep some air in it, and we can talk a little bit about the wine.
First of all, we do need to check in with Cheryl. She hasn't,
How foolish of me. I almost overlooked the single most important part of the whole program. Cheryl, can you give us once again a brief update, or as long as you'd like to talk, about the fun things that you did this week and that you had going on at the winery? She's 7 for 7 in bringing it directly to the point. With that, it's time to toast. Okay, now we'll talk about the wine. The Petit Verdot grape is one of the 5 Bordeaux grapes that we're growing here on the property. This particular wine is 100% Petit Verdot. It's known for its very small berries and very intense flavor. Interestingly enough, the word Petit Verdot is actually translated to say little green. It was first developed in southwest France in the Bordeaux region. They were having a difficult time getting this grape to ripen. As a result, many of the berries remained small and green, and thus it got its name. Since we've been able to grow it here in Virginia, we have a climate that makes this grape very easy to grow and also ripens very firmly and very nicely. As a result, we can get some very, very intense fruit. In fact, we're seeing more and more of this being grown in Virginia. The last count was there were 66 wineries in the state that actually had Petit Verdots on their menu. I should also mention that it's a very intense grape, one that blends very nicely with other Bordeaux's. And as you all know, we use it as a blending grape in our Ranger Reserve, adding intensity and color to that wine. This particular wine was aged in French oak. Here we used new barrels, and we left it on oak for about 18 months. Because of the intensity of the wine, it can hold up to new oak. It's a wine that really goes greatly with red meats, with steak, heavy pasta dishes, barbecue, and your sharp cheeses. I also should mention again, this is 100% Petit Verdot. So with that, to those of you who have it in your hand, here's to you, and thank you for joining us again. Now, to continue the program, let's not flip all the pages at once, Dan. We have to go over the quiz results. And this is one of the things that we really wanted to talk to you about. Those of you who entered the contest didn't seem to have the answers correct. In fact, regrettably, of the tens of thousands of applications that came into us, nobody had the right answer on the three. Now, I don't know if that means you're not paying attention or you're just consuming a little more of this wonderful Grey Ghost wine. I hope it's the latter. But what we're going to do is redo the quiz today. And the reason we're doing it is we're desperately wanting to give away a gift. So we're doing this early in the program. We'll repeat it midway through, so those of you who signed up late for the program will also be able to participate. Now, what I'm going to do is read the questions while Amy holds them up. So we're going to start with the first question. What was the first winery in California that Al and Cheryl visited? Was it Robert Mondavi? Was it J.L. Lure? Was it Sebastiani? How about Behringer? Was it Kendall Jackson? Well, there you have it, folks. That's the question number one. Now, I hope you were paying attention. Now we're going to go to question number two. How many vines were in the original planting at the Dale City home of the Kellers? Was it 25? Was it 50? How about 100? Maybe 160? Could have it been 200? Was it none of the above? Okay, you've now had question number two. We're now going to go to the last question, which is very personal to Cheryl and me. The question is, when was Al and Cheryl's first date? Was it May 13, 1968? Okay, I won't ask any of the other dates. I'll let you guess from there. Now, a little bit of the update on the vineyard. It's been 7 days since you and I had a chance to talk, and a lot has happened. Quite frankly, Cheryl and I have been growing grapes commercially for 33 years. And this has never happened to us in the past. And like I've said many times, it seems like nature throws us a curve every year. This year we had the single worst frost year we've ever had. we lost about 100% of our Chardonnay. In fact, when you look out and look at the one block, which is about a half an acre, there's only about 6 shoots that are still remaining. Now, although the damage was severe, we are hoping and praying that when the secondaries come out, they do have some fruit on them. Normally, a secondary of a vinifera vine will produce a small cluster, if anything at all. So the verdict is still out whether or not we will have Chardonnay in 2020, but for what it's worth, it was a very damaging frost. The ones that totally escaped the frost, which were the Petit Verdot, the Gewürztraminer, and the Vidal Blanc. The Petit Verdot and the Gewürztraminer are actually planted in the very back. When the fires were lit, we think that there was a pocket of air that was being held in place by the trees that surrounded that segment of the vineyard. As a result, we got the temperature inversion, and that saved that block. There was moderate damage in the Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Seyval Blanc, and then the Riesling, Melbach, and Merlot took a severe hit, but not totally destroyed. So for those of you who are interested, we'll try to keep you posted. Let's hope and pray that this is the worst news we have to give you as far as the vineyard is concerned. Now we get to the Q&A, and we're going to come up with some of the questions that were posed to us, that's right, last week.
Before we get started, Al, because it's good to wet your whistle, want to thank Rick and Susie Kennedy for coming out today. Rick had a quick question about how long it took in hair and makeup this evening.
The hair is 60 days, okay? As far as the makeup is concerned, I did shave this morning. How about you, Cheryl?
We had no time for hair and makeup because the last people are still in the garden and we've got all the doors locked. We had no prep time. That's why I look a little disheveled.
Okay, we're ready for questions from last week.
Okay, Larry, you had an interesting question about the art of removing wine from a barrel and how do you do it without stirring the sediment. We use a very special racking rod that goes into the barrel. We pull a vacuum on that barrel and actually siphon the wine off from the top down. The result is all of the wine that has settled via a fining, of a natural fining, is pulled from the barrel. We stop the pull with about a gallon to a gallon and a half of liquid still in the barrel, so the sediment still remains there. That sediment will then be poured out of the barrel, put into carboys, allowed to settle one more time, and then the clear wine from the top of the carboy will be removed. As a result, no sediment enters the tank when we're racking off out of the barrel. A very good question, and something that's really interesting to actually watch. Paul, you asked the question about what's the sweetest wine we produce. It's the Adieu, which is the late harvest Vidal that's created by botrytis, or the noble rot. There's 2 types of botrytis that can hit the vineyard. One is called sour rot, and the other the noble rot. If the vineyard takes on sour rot, it has a distinct vinegar smell, and as a result, the grapes are basically spoiling. On the other hand, botrytis, the noble rot, has no aromas, and all that's doing is raisioning or dehydrating the grape. As a result, those grapes are picked much later than our standard Vidal harvest. They were first discovered by my executive producer, Amy, in 1997, which was our first year to produce it. We don't get it every year. We do have it from the 2019 vintage, and that will be released later on this summer. Do I have a question?
Yes, you have a great follow-up from Chris Murray up in Northern Virginia, who asked, does the damage from the frost only affect this year's production?
Chris, that's a great question, and yes. But for that reason, we have to still manage that vineyard as if it's in full production. You have to keep those vines healthy, which means they will continue to be trained I will maintain my same spray regimen to keep diseases down, with the idea that those canes are going to harden off and we will get the carbohydrates that will carry that vine into next year. So right now those vines are healthy, it's just that we're not expecting to get much of a crop this year. Now Lori, you had a question about have you ever made a wine that you had to pour out? That's really a very interesting question, and the answer is yes. When we started the winery, we started with the 1993 vintage, probably one of the best vintages that the Virginia has ever had coming into 2019. If you had to open a winery, that was the vintage to have. That was followed immediately by 1994, which truly was the worst vintage that we could have had. We had 28 days of consecutive rain. Cheryl and I had made a commitment at the beginning that we were never going to release a wine that we were not proud of, and that we would not want our customers to enjoy just like we had. So the result was Cabernet that just didn't hold up to what we were looking for. I called the ATF, we have to get special government permission to dump wine, and explained to them that there was no way in the world that I could produce this wine. Wine is considered a hazardous material because it has alcohol. And she said, yes, you can dump it. However, it has to be trucked down to Richmond. So there was an added cost. She then connected us with a little distillery that makes brandy and said, you may want to see if he'd be interested in buying it. He ended up buying the grapes or the wine and ended up turning it into brandy. So we at least, although we didn't dump it, we at least got rid of it and it was made into something that was useful. But very good question. Yes, another question?
Sally has a follow-up on the emptying of the barrels. What do you do with the sediment that's left behind?
The sediment is recycled and actually sent back into the vineyards. And the reason we do that is it carries the specific yeast that we're using on a given wine. And these are cultured yeasts. So what we're doing is actually overwhelming the natural yeast in the vineyard, which also helps us the following year in actually producing a wine. It's a very good question. Now, Dana, you asked, have you ever considered doing classes once the lockdown is over? The answer is yes. One of the classes we've done in the past was a blending class, where we actually allowed individuals to come in, blend their own Ranger Reserve, and then compare it against the Rangers that we're producing. We're also looking at other options. Dana, if you have anything you're interested in as far as a class is concerned, or anybody else out there, please don't hesitate in getting in touch with us. We'll see whether or not we can put it together and also what the timing would be. Are there any other questions that you can come up with right now? Okay, Cindy, you had a really interesting question about stemware versus glasses that are stemless. There's a reason we use stemware. When we're pouring a wine, we're pouring it at the appropriate temperature. So we don't want you to touch that bowl because your hand, by its nature, is going to warm up that wine. So the idea of a stem is to give you the ability to enjoy that wine at the appropriate temperature. I do think the stemless ware has become kind of a fad, and I'm really kind of disappointed that wineries have gone that route. However, I still believe very strongly in stemware, and very important because that's the way, to me, a wine can be best appreciated. Wow, that is one whale of a wine. I'm really enjoying this, Cheryl.
Me too.
Okay, Larry, you had an interesting question about who has the heightened palate. And this brings us to our research project of the week. What we're going to do is an experiment. And a wine has been poured for Cheryl, and then a wine has been poured for me. And what we're going to do is blindfold ourselves. Amy is going to hand us a glass, and then it's going to be for us to determine what wine that is. and what characteristics we're picking up in this wine. So Cheryl, do you mind starting?
Not at all. I'd love to. Let me get blindfolded. Oh, I can't see a thing.
Okay, with that, Amy, would you please give Cheryl her wine?
It's going to be hard to kind of smell this, but I'll
Yeah.
try not to. I won't peek. I'm just smelling.
Make sure you talk real loud for our audience. They can't wait to see how good you are at this.
I'll try, but I've been talking all day. Wow, this has got to be a lovely red blend. I'm gonna say the blend is probably 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, 45% Merlot, and the remainder is it's got to be Petit Verdot. So it's a lovely blend. Actually, I'm going to say it comes from the Margaux appellation of Bordeaux. And well, I feel like it's kind of leaning left. Having said that, I don't think it's a first growth. But by golly, I would say it's a fourth growth. So now let me tell you what I think it is. It's a 2004 Chateau Perret Lachine. That's my guess.
Would you believe it? She nailed it.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Way to go,
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Thank you.
Oh,
Good
that's
job.
going to be hard to top. Let me go ahead and put my blindfold on now.
Are you ready, Al?
I'm ready. Oh, it has very distinct notes of the old world. Probably a French, almost comes out as a French Bordeaux. However, I am picking up a hint of the New World. This could possibly be coming out of the West Coast, either California, Washington, or Oregon. Oh, there's no question in my mind that this has come from an older vines, which are producing very, very intense fruit and intense aromas. Aromas that just cannot be matched, possibly with anything other than a great, great rich red. Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that this has also been aged in oak, a combination of both new and possibly older barrels. And it's also had a great deal of time in the bottle, meaning that it's been probably coming out of a library. Okay, I'm ready to hazard a guess. I'm guessing this is a non-vintage cotton candy wine coming from Paris Winery out of Cooksville, Tennessee, 701 East Spring Street, and the zip code on this is 38501. How close did I come?
Well, that's awfully specific, Al. Would you like to unveil it?
I'd love to. May I take off my mask
Yes,
now?
you may take off your mask. Your wine has been brown bagged.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Is he correct?
this is going to be a gamble. Oh my gosh. I hit it on the nose.
Nailed it!
Once again, I'll leave this to your decision on who has the greater palate, whether it's Cheryl or Big Al.
Pick me, pick me.
Now, more seriously, one of the things we'd like to do is challenge you all a little bit to do a serious brown bag program, something that would be a lot of fun to do in our current state that we're in right now. One of the things that we like to do periodically is do games that you can play at home. And this is one that would be ideal for that. What would be kind of fun is for one of you to pick a meal that you'd like to have, and let your spouse or friend know what you're going to do, and let the other one select the wine. Then, during the course of the meal, quiz each other and see whether or not you can detect what wine it is, what kind, and how it matches with food. It's a really fun thing to do. It gives you an opportunity to experience wine, gives you an opportunity to understand a little bit more about them, and also detect the flavors that you can get out of wine as well as the aromas. So give it a shot and see what you think. Now, with that, we're going to go back to our quiz one more time. And just so those of you who started late, you'll have an opportunity. The first question on the quiz is...
Now remember, you got to send these in to us and have to get them all right to be eligible for the drawing.
We're going to abbreviate these this time because we're running out of time. What was the first winery in California that Al and Cheryl visited? Was it Sebastiani? Was it none of the above? How many vines were actually planted in the backyard of the Kellert's home? Was it 100? Or was it all of the above? And the last question, what was the date of the first date of Al and Cheryl? Was it May 13, 1968? Or was it all of the above?
Remember to send in your winning answers to replies@greyghostvineyards.com to be entered in next week's drawing.
Okay, due to the fact that we're kind of running short of time, I'm going to forego the little history of the family and just hit you with a couple of real quick jokes because I want to make sure that you leave here with a hint of humor. And then we're going to pick up on the family next week. The first was a mysterious series of deaths that were occurring in the ICU room B every Sunday at 11 a.m. in this one particular hospital. It was always the same bed. Nobody could figure it out. So finally they decided to tape the room, put videos in it, and see if they could figure out what was going on. Many of the doctors, being very religious, decided to take their rosaries and did prayers to make sure that no demon was actually in the room. At exactly 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, the janitor came in, unplugged the life support system, and plugged in his vacuum.
Bada bing! Bada bing!
Secondly, there was a very severe accident where three men were in the car and they all were killed. When they got to heaven, St. Peter asked them, when you're laying in your casket, what would you like best for your family to say? The first one said, I'd like them to say that I was a great doctor, but also a great family man. The second one said, I'd love them to say I was a wonderful husband and also a great teacher. The third one looked at St. Peter and said, I'd really like them to say, look, he's moving. Then last but not least, Cheryl and I did have one pet dog, and unfortunately it had an ingrown tail. One of the reasons we didn't get any more dogs is we were constantly taking to the vet to have it x-rayed to see if it was happy. With that, folks, thank you again for enjoying us. We had a wonderful time with you. If you have any more questions, be sure to send them in. We look forward to responding in the future.
And to answer a question early in the show, yes, we are open for enjoyment of wine on the grounds, not yet doing wine tasting. Please do watch our website and watch our emails. Thank you so much for visiting. This has been episode 7 of Happy Half Hour. And we love you all too.